everybody. Again, it's Scott Bunce, and I'm really excited today. I have LK, who is a Vistage presenter, and he just presented to my Vistage group. And I was so impressed with the content. I wanted to bring him on and talk about his presentation and maybe tease you with some of the stuff that we picked up in our group as well. His presentation was called Lead During Accelerating Change. And the first thing, LK, before we dive in, I want to tell you, I was really impressed with the preparation you've done for that presentation. It had a lot of research, it had a lot of profiles in it, and it really got to it. But why don't we start with, tell us who you are, tell us about your presentation, and what would somebody expect in listening to a presentation like this?
All right, so LK KIhlstadius, I like to say I'm one of the few people that have hit all the buttons on the Vistage board. So I've been a member, I've been a member of the executive team, I've been a Vistage chair, and now I'm a Vistage speaker. So I've covered all the four bases you can cover in Vistage, I believe, except for being on the board, I guess. My background is one of leadership. Captain of every sports team I was ever on. Went to the Naval Academy where, one of the few schools that coach and teach leadership completely over 4 years. I chose the Marine Corps to be an officer in the Marine Corps because the Marines love to be Marines. And if you're going to lead people who love being what they are. Been a student of leadership throughout my career. And I think this is the cumulation of all those things in the fact that while I was sitting on the beach in Cabo, Mexico, escaping COVID, I had some former colleagues reach out about this new thing they're doing called the Adaptability Quotient, which is if you do IQ, EQ. And they said, this is so important. And I said, no, thanks. And they said, hey, just take the assessment and see if you'd like to learn how to facilitate this. And I said, okay. So I took the bait, got hooked. It's super compelling. It is probably the most important thing I've done for my former members and for my current clients.
That is so cool. And of course, the members of my Vistage group just ate it up. Tell us a little bit about the profile and the research that went into it, and maybe some of the highlights of what the findings were.
No, I think it's a pretty simple straight line event. Mackenzie did some research around 2016. Don't quote me on the exact date, but somewhere in there. And what they had studied was the 72 attributes that can predict leadership success in the world of business. And a standard deviation above everything else was adaptability. And they were a little surprised by that. Interesting. Number two was leading through uncertainty. Those things seem to be linked to me. Well, two of the Mackenzie partners took that and said, this is super interesting. If that is the thing and you want to be good at it, or you want to even know how good you are at it, how do you measure it? And so they figured that out and then created a company around how do you measure adaptability and how do you then improve it? Because indeed, it's a skill set that can be improved. And they divided up into three characteristics, if you will. Ability, which is sort of like if you're an athlete, you have a natural athleticism that you were just born with. You can improve that, obviously. Athletes can train, and whatever level you are, you are. Character, which is more of an innate type, which is, I would say the equivalency is more like IQ. You can move the dial, but you're not going to move it a ton. And then environment, which is obviously the easiest one to do. Like I did with COVID, where I said, nope, I'm out. I moved to Cabo, Mexico. You can change your environment, and that can change your level of adaptability. Move fast forward, they did follow-up research, and Mackenzie found out after studying thousands of executives, if you take the top 10% of performers and assess them for adaptability, lo and behold, they are the top 10% in adaptability. And on the same hand, if you took the lowest 10% performers, they correlate directly to the 10% lowest adaptable. That efficacy right there tells you all you need to know.
Yeah. When I think of the world today, whether it's technology, whether it's geopolitical events, whether it's weather issues that are affecting businesses, I can't think of anything more important than adaptability because things are changing faster and faster than they ever have.
Well, I'm not sure of the research behind this, and I'm not sure who the pundit that said this was. There is a quote out there that says, we're going to have more change in the next 10 years than the previous 100 years, based on the trajectory of change. Change used to be sort of generational, and then it got into decade, and then it got into basically every 4 years of college, everything changed. And now it seems like things change pretty dramatically year after year after year. It's why I actually scoff when my members say they want to build a 5-year plan. And I said, don't. Just don't. 5-year vision, I don't mind that. Have a bearing point, but not a plan.
Even 1 year budgets these days seem so incredibly, you're only X number of months into it, and AI has changed something, and how you're approaching business changes or a competitor changes, and budgets can go out the window, and being adaptive is so important.
Well, just think about this stat. 44% of the companies who are industry leaders in the Fortune 500 in their category are no longer the leaders in their category after just 1 decade. And by the way, previously, if you studied that, it would take 50 years to change that number.
Right. And you think of the clients you have in your business, their needs are changing so fast too.
Correct.
It's absolutely incredible. So what are some of the things that people can do to improve their adaptability along the way? How can they be more flexible and make the most of change?
Well, I think the first thing is be vulnerable with yourself. I have a life principle. I call it life principle number 1, and it's accept reality as it is. And I'm always shocked, especially at very successful people who don't accept reality as it is. They've been so successful, they feel they're bulletproof, they think nothing could ever touch them. And the reality is, these are the companies that go out of business. These are the companies that go down the descending cycle of doom. So first of all, be vulnerable enough to say, this is something that's important and I need to look at it. So that's 1. 2, take the assessment. Find out where you measure yourself. 3, get better. And I actually believe now, whether you hire a CEO coach, join a Vistage group, or you just get an accountability partner, which I'd say that's a distant third in the things that'll make you change, start working on you. And there's a whole game plan of how you can improve your grit, improve your mindset, improve mental flexibility, improve your unlearning, improve your resilience. The reality is, if you study executives across the globe, the 2 weakest dimensions of adaptability are mental flexibility and unlearning. And that just makes sense because we're so certain about what we're certain about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Boy, when I think about unlearning at my age, I have a ton to unlearn. And the things that I've known and counted on for decades are fast becoming dated and are useless and get in my way.
Well, it's interesting. And this comes up to a coaching conversation I literally had this week. And I'm doing this thing where we're talking about joy versus meaning. I did a post on LinkedIn about it today. And he said that what gave him joy at work was being the guy that people go to for the answers. There's a recipe for disaster. And I challenged him. I said, if that's the thing that brings you joy, you need to change your channel. What should give you joy is them figuring it out on their own and you being the guidepost to help them figure it out, not give them the answers. Answer questions, questions, questions. Guide them there with questions. Use the Socratic method.
So you mentioned take the assessment. What if you take the assessment and it doesn't come out the way you want?
Well, it probably won't. Let's just be clear. There's going to be something in there. It's like a performance review. You can have 12 things you did great, and that one thing you did wrong. What do you mean I'm not good at this? We're all perfectly flawed humans. We all have something in our chemistry, in our makeup, whether it's the environment, whether it's our character, whether it's our ability, that just isn't what we hoped it would be.
Right.
So be vulnerable, be open to it. Understand the reason I'm doing this is to get better. It doesn't matter if I know it or not, it's still there. It's like I had a CEO who had a great mantra for her leadership team, and it was bad news fast. And she embraced it. And people knew if they give bad news fast, they're not going to get beat up for it. It's bad news fast lets us solve something while it's still a little fire, not a Los Angeles fire.
Yeah, exactly. So if people want to get a hold of you as a speaker, or as a mentor, or want to connect with you, how do they get a hold of you?
So the easiest way is LinkedIn. My last name is very unique, KIhlstadius, Kihl. Once you type that in, I'll pretty much pop up. Anybody who shows up on that is related to me. And there's not that many of us. It's a very unique name. For Vistage, obviously, I'm in the speaker profile, so they can find me very easily on my Vistage and pretty much go from there.
Love it. Well, okay, I want to end with a story. If I can throw you a curveball.
Sure.
You've been coaching and you've been giving speeches for quite some time. Can you reflect on somebody that had an aha moment about adaptivity, that where the light came on or where they was missing and you were able to point them in the right direction?
Actually, there's a whole basket full of them. And I'm gonna point out one in particular. So this person um, was running a pretty large company already. The company when he became CEO was about 150 million, and he was came to me and said, "Hey, yeah, I'm a new CEO for this new company. I'd like to get your services." And this was 6 years ago. Fast forward in 6 years, the company just sold for $1 billion valuation.
Mm,
Here's what changed: storytelling. He was too directive. And when he took the adaptability AQ, some things came out about how he was wired and how he maybe played to protect too much rather than play to win. How he probably didn't trust his team as much as he should have trusted his team. So we started meeting with people, the key leaders. First of all, I realized of the group, of the C-suite, he probably had two that weren't good fits just based on where he wanted to go. And he had the courage to finally let them go, replace them with better players. And they got their story down. And that's what the thing he learned is he can't be the only storyteller. It's like the old Steve Jobs thing about he was the time teller for Apple, and that got them so far, and then they kind of crashed. And when he came back as Steve Jobs 2.0, he became the clock maker to let other people tell the time, and that's the difference.
love it. That's a great story. Well, okay, thank you for spending some time with us today. Wishing you well on your journey of Vistage speaking and your coaching. And yeah, I think that's it for today. Thanks
I
again.
really appreciate it, Scott. I enjoyed your group.
All right, all the best.
Take care.